Hey everyone, Cable Antique Book Collective, and today I'm getting to you guys with a little bit of an update video. So guys, a while ago, I'm actually going to link to these videos at the end, so be sure to check those videos out as well, because a lot of my information is not going to change, but I do have some updates on what I've shared with you guys before on conditioning, reconditioning the leather on your leather books. So guys, obviously I have some leather books behind me. I could grab them if I wanted. Not going to do that for this video because I'm a little bit, let's just say I've grabbed enough books, oiled enough books. I think I have shown you guys what a leather book looks like, and I think you guys are aware what they look like. But I have been dealing with this quite a long time, and guys, I actually have gotten to the point in my business that I actually am oiling every single book that I'm bringing in that is a leather book. I was telling myself I wouldn't do this and that I'd only do it for the books that really need it, but I'm at the point that it's like, man, almost every single book that I purchase has not been oiled in a couple of decades, and once it's been that long, it really does need to be oiled again. I know that there is some contention. I have not had anyone reach out to me yet on YouTube saying that I'm an idiot for oiling my books, but I have seen on the interwebs, somewhere out there in the internet land, there's someone that's saying, do not oil your books. This is the dumbest thing ever. It's a waste of time. You're ruining the book by doing that. All these sorts of things. So I do want to sort of address that really quick. I know I did in the other videos, but I'm going to address that in this video as well of, yes, you do not need to oil your books a ton. You can definitely damage your books by oiling them too often or oiling them improperly. However, leather books do need oil. Guys, if you have dealt with anything that is old, made of leather, you know that it cracks with age. If you guys have dealt with even leather on your couch that's like 5 years old, it doesn't even have to be that old, you know that it sort of starts getting some wear and tear. It sort of starts looking dry, and that happens because it needs to be oiled. It needs to be oiled pretty regularly, honestly. So for me in my own business, I'm at the point where I'm like, okay, so I have oiled some of these books. Let's say it's been a year, and I'm looking at them now, and it's like, okay, they don't need oiled yet, and I'm just sort of looking at them, stressing out. I'm like, when do I need to oil them? Because when I need to start oiling them, I'm going to get in a cycle, and it's going to be like one after the other, and I'm going to be stuck doing this for the rest of my life. And I'm looking at some of these, and I'm like, no, Caleb, calm down. You're stressing out over nothing. And I'm not too stressed about it, but it is something I'm sort of thinking about in the back of my head. And with that said, so yes, I'm not saying you have to oil your books every single year, but once a decade, I think could be a pretty appropriate sort of thing. That being said, I would love for some of you guys to chime in the comments below. Please be sure to do that if you guys do know anything about leather conditioning. The reason why I'm doing this update video is not only from my own experiences, but because of what you guys have actually shared in the comment section on the other videos. One comment that I am totally going to address right here and right now is actually using conditioner that's leather shampoo on your books. So these leather shampoo things are actually designed for like saddles and such that you have for horses, and I guess you could saddle your like elephant and whatnot as well. But let's just say for horses, I'm not getting at elephant riding, but for those leather shampoos, those actually do cleaning in addition to the reconditioning of your leather. And guys, when you have leather that's in sad enough condition, but it's still dirty, having the shampoo to do it can actually do a whole lot to like really clean things up without damaging it, because when you have dirty leather that you're trying to condition, it makes it an absolute nightmare. Speaking from experience here, oi, big headache right there. So I have not personally tested out the leather shampoo for books, but I have heard great things about it from several people now that have used it on books, but also people that have used it on their saddles, and they're like, hey, you should try this out. So it is on my radar of things I need to try out. I know there's a lot of things you guys want me to try out, and eventually I will, but I don't have $1 million to burn on every single experiment you guys want me to do for this channel. There are so many things that I need to do as it is for this channel, so trust me, it's on my radar, but I cannot get to everything as quickly as you guys might want. But with that said, why am I doing this video with an update? Well, the answer to that is I've actually been trying some different oils. The ones that I said were not my favorite in the original video that I tested out a ton of different combinations and like mixtures, and I tried this one and this one and this one. I've been trying one of my ones that was like a runner-up, and that runner-up one that I enjoyed using but was like sort of not sold on was actually Linseed Oil mixed with Lanolin. So guys, Lanolin is a byproduct of sheep raising and all that sort of stuff. I believe you get it from getting wool, making wool, and like you wash it off and it's the fat greasy stuff that comes off your wool, I believe. Don't quote me on that. It might come from when you slaughter sheep, but I don't believe so. It doesn't look like the sort of fat that you get from when you're rendering animal fat. It looks more along the lines of what I would imagine you get from wool processing. Of course, I do not know that. Don't quote me on that. I don't know if it is totally the safest thing in the world, but they do have a lot of options for you guys on that realm. But with that said, Lanolin is actually something I started testing out again, and I started using the linseed oil on it again, and I was testing it out, and I actually ended up, so you guys know how in my video how I did 80% Lanolin and 20% linseed oil. I actually changed it to about 30% linseed oil with the rest of it being lanolin, and I mixed that together. And I don't remember if you guys recall from that particular video, but I was talking about how I believe I was talking about how the lanolin, it's rather stringy almost, like I don't even know what to describe it as, but it's a little tackier than the other ones. That's one of the reasons why I chose to do mink oil. It was just a lot easier to work with. But the lanolin, once I added in that extra linseed oil, it was actually a whole lot easier for me to deal with. And the shine that I got on the leather books once I finished was, I think, a lot more appealing, I would say, than the Mink Oil and Neatsfoot Oil conditioning I did on the covers. Forgive me for that. But it's really interesting working with the new sort of rendition that I did on it and trying that on a few different books, because while I think I might still prefer the Mink Oil and Neatsfoot Oil, which I still am going to be that's still going to be my main recommendation, I did start trying out the Linseed Oil and Lanolin, because I know I've talked about this in other videos, guys, about how I want to start out in the middle of nowhere. I want to start my own farm. On that farm, I'm actually planning on quite intently planning on actually rearing up my own sheep and growing my own flax. Flax, guys, is what linseed comes from. Flax is also what linen comes from. So linen, linseed, it's the same thing, and it all comes from flax. So for me, I was like, okay, so I can't in any reasonable amount of time raise up any cows to do my own Neatsfoot oil on, because you have to slaughter the cows, which means you have to grow them, and it takes some time for cattle to grow to the point where you'd be harvesting that. So I'm like, okay, that's not something I can do anytime soon, and that's just for the Neatsfoot oil. For the mink oil, well, I have absolutely no intention in the world to raise my own mink for mink oil. So it's like, okay, so that one I sort of can't do on my own. So for me, guys, I like to do stuff as self-sufficiently as I can. So for me, I was looking at that, I'm like, well, that leaves me with lanolin, which I don't enjoy using on books right now as it is, but mixed in with some linseed oil, I didn't hate it. And then I was like, well, it was a lot more workable after I added that 20% linseed oil. So what if I added another 10% on top of that? So I was sort of workshopping off of stuff that I knew that I would be dealing with and working with in the future, stuff that I would be growing in the future. And guys, honestly, something I want to do is actually down the road start selling my own lanolin and linseed oil for books, because I did get to the point that I'm like, okay, this is actually something I could really work with and really enjoy working with. So down the road, I actually would like to make that a product for you guys to buy of lanolin and linseed oil that is produced by Caleb, the coolest book guy in the world. I have a whiteboard with my name on it. Isn't that cool? I am so official. Ha ha ha. I'm being a little sarcastic there, but that is something that I was sort of fiddling with. I'm like, that is something I could totally do. And I actually, now that I've used it some more, I'm like, and I can totally get behind that too. It's not just, oh, look at me, I made this and it's good, use it. It's like, no, I can actually stand behind that product. So that is something I definitely want to do in the long run. So that's one of the reasons why I'm doing this update video of saying, maybe I was a little bit too harsh on it. Still, I do prefer the mink oil mixed with the Neatsfoot oil. That is my absolute favorite, guys. Again, that is 80% mink oil and then 20% Neatsfoot oil. Forgive me, and that is linked in the description below. You guys can actually buy that on Amazon. I recommend you guys buy that. It is the absolute, it's the Cadillac of oiling for books, in my opinion. However, again, I'm to the point where between the shine of the lanolin, what it gives the books, it is a beautiful shine on the books. I wish I had one of them on hand to do. Actually, I'm going to walk away from the screen right now, and I'm going to make you guys wait, because you guys are going to see this. So, excuse me. And no, I'm not going to edit that out, because you guys need to suffer, because you made me get up for this. You guys are just so heartless. So, here is a book that I did with the Neatsfoot oil and mink oil. And here is a book, as you guys can see, it's a lot shinier, that I did with the linseed oil and lanolin. So obviously these are two very different leathers. The lanolin and linseed oil did not make the book this dark. However, I believe this is a good indication of just how shiny things have gotten off of this. So I have not an open window. I have a window right over there that should be letting in enough light that you guys should be able to see some glare if I fiddle with this just right. Let's see, this side's a little shinier. But here's the shine that, oh, it's a little dusty. Sorry, guys. Let's do this side since it's not dusty. So I'm hoping this comes through for you guys, though. Just a little bit of the shine on this book. It's pretty subtle. So the subtleness, it definitely does work. Obviously, some people would like that. Some people don't like that. There are some fingerprints on this book. I did not give it the full wipe down that I probably should have. But honestly, once you guys have done this, if you have oiled your books, literally just running your fingers like this, just in little circles around it. I recommend lightly pressing down as you run your little circles around it. That actually takes care of the fingerprints, so they should not be present anymore for anyone to see. So be sure to do that before you like ship these books off if you did oil them. For me, again, guys, I am oiling every single leather book that I get in, so that is something that is a lot more labor intensive, but the quality of books that I'm shipping out, guys, now that they're oiled, it is like, wow, I actually am not worried about this book making it to the customer safely. But that's just me. That's just what I'm doing. You guys don't have to do that. But with that said, onto this book. So guys, this book, my dad actually pulled it out of like a trash pile of books that this library was going to throw away. And it was in rough shape. It was not this color whatsoever ever. It looked like it had been sitting outside in the sun and the rain for years and years. Like the leather looked cracked. It was powdery. It was rough. And I was like, okay, when I have books that are in that bad of shape, I actually like to use the linseed oil. I know I mentioned in the other video about how the linseed oil, it just gets sucked up into the leather, like the Neatsfoot oil being another liquid one. So guys, again, so Mink Oil and Lanolin, those are more like solid oil things. The Lanolin's a little goopier. The Mink Oil is a little harder. But the Neatsfoot oil and Linseed oil, those two are liquids. And I found the liquid ones just get sucked up in the leather really quickly. But the Linseed oil got sucked up a whole lot faster. So whenever I have a book that's its leather is really powdery, and like if you like look at it wrong, it'll turn to dust. When I have something like that, I actually like to go over it with a lot more moist of an oil. So I like to hit it with the Linseed oil or the Neatsfoot oil. Personally, for me, I'm a little torn between the two. I sort of like linseed oil more because it doesn't smell as bad as Neatsfoot oil. Neatsfoot oil smells terrible. So the linseed oil, being something that people actually use in food sometimes, is a lot more appropriate. It's like, wow, this isn't terrible. And in addition to that, I mean, think about where they both come from. It's like, yeah, I'd rather be fiddling with linseed oil a little bit more. But with that said, I was like, okay, so this one I definitely have to do something with the linseed oil because I don't like the smell of the Neatsfoot oil again. So I was like, okay, let's test out the linseed oil and lanolin mixture that I've been doing, because I've been trying this on a few different books at this time. So I did it, and it brought this book back from the dead. So here is a little bit of this to hopefully show you guys the shine. I mean, this book is so much shinier. And again, guys, I understand that different leathers have different finishes, so it's not really fair comparing these two necessarily, but it definitely, I've seen across the board with all the books that I've done that I used the lanolin with the increased linseed oil mixture. The shine on it is absolutely insane. For me, I don't know if everyone likes to use and read shiny books, but I think the shiny books look a lot almost regal. It looks more intentional. It's not just like, oh, look, you got a leather book off the shelf. It's like, ooh, that leather book's been maintained. And obviously this one has not been maintained. You guys can see the giant scratch down the side of a crack where the leather got so dry it was cracking. But that is something I have found. That is something that I am actually sort of sticking to my guns with. And now it's like, okay, I'm not going to say I'm wrong by saying Mink Oil and Neatsfoot Oil in a mix, because I absolutely love that mix. But I would say there's actually a close runner-up, and I know in the actual video it was a close runner-up with the linseed oil with the lanolin, but like now I'm at the point that I'm like, ooh, with a little bit more linseed oil, that is an absolute win. And with all that said, all the way back, so in that original video, guys, I actually was talking about how I was doing all this research, and people who were working on books said only use lanolin, yeah. And then other people, a lot more people actually, were saying only use linseed oil. No one was mentioning using Mink Oil. For Neatsfoot Oil, I didn't see anyone talking about using it for books. They were only talking about using it for like leather implements. So let's say harnesses and bridles and all that sort of stuff for horses. People used it for their, in the military, they used it for the leashes for all the dogs and such. So no one was talking about using that for books. So for me, I was like going out on a limb and testing out something brand new. And it actually worked out pretty well using those two together that no one else was using on books. And I was like, wow, I actually really like that. But having run some more tests, and guys, it's been a while since I made those videos, having run more tests though, used it a little bit more, I'm like, okay, I think I can get behind using lanolin and linseed oil. Of course, I don't like using linseed oil by itself at all. Strongly discourage that, guys, with it being a liquid one. Same with the Neatsfoot oil. The two liquid ones, I don't recommend using those on the books directly on their own at all. They get sucked into the leather so stinking quick, which takes us all the way back to what I was talking in the beginning of this video, really quick, a little sidebar if you guys will, of if you guys over oil your stuff, or if you use those liquid ones, it can actually get sucked through the leather into the book board itself, which can actually cause some rot, because the book board is like a piece of cardboard, and that's not really meant to get moist and covered in oil. You are just trying to oil the actual leather itself. So that is something to keep in mind. But with that said, back to the linseed oil and lanolin. People said to use that on books. I tried it. I was okay with them, but having mixed them now, guys, again, 70% lanolin, which is from the sheep, and then 30% linseed oil, which is from flax. Mixing those together, I think that might be my favorite one now. I still love the Mink Oil and Neatsfoot Oil. Do not get me wrong. What's so stinking ever? I love those. But man, the linseed oil and lanolin, it's like, ooh, those are pretty stinking dandy. So I know this is sort of a convoluted long video, sort of going through all this, going through my experience, all that sort of stuff, but I hope it was beneficial for you guys. If you guys do need to oil your own books, again, check out the other videos. I'm going to be linking to them there and there. Check those out. I actually walk you guys through how to do it, so don't ask in the comments below. I walk you through it here and here. It's a lot better to actually see it done than it is to actually have me just type out something out. So be sure to check those out. Be sure to subscribe if this was helpful for you guys. I hope you enjoyed this video, and I'll see you guys in the next one.